Okay, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good whatever zone you are in the world. Um, I'm your host for today, Emily. I help run the DevRel team at Scroll, but really I'm here to mostly be quiet and let Alex kind of show off what's really cool about one of, I guess, our developer tooling that exists on Scroll and can help empower all the really cool dapps that I hope to see people build. So I'll stop yapping and I'll let Alex introduce himself.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Alex. I've been at UMA and Across for over 3 years on the engineering and growth side. So, really focused on helping teams basically, use bridging in their dApps so that to make cross-chain actions really easy. So, if you're building on Scroll and you want to access user funds from Base or Optimism, we make that really easy for you. And that's what I plan on kind of sharing and talking through today.
Okay, cool. So I kind of want to pick up that kind of piece right here, especially since maybe people joining are interested in bridging. What makes bridging easy or hard? I think generally, and then we can dive into, how Across kind of fixes that problem. Um,
It's a good question. I think like the two obvious things that can make it really hard for users is really slow speeds and really high costs. So if you're trying to like abstract away bridging and provide this like Web 2 like experience, but the bridging costs $10 and takes 20 or 30 minutes, like you're just not going to provide this great user experience for users. So I think that's the one thing that Across has really been focused on is like under 5 seconds to bridge from different L2s, and then only charging users like a few pennies, and that allows dapp builders to then use Across under the hood to provide this really seamless experience for users.
Cool. So, when you say like charge pennies, I'm assuming it's just like bridging protocols in general. They take a fee on top of the
Yeah,
like action. Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
and the way that Across works is like the protocol doesn't actually charge any fees. We have we have these third-party relayers or solvers that actually execute trades on behalf of the user, or they actually do the fills on the destination chain, and then they get repaid. So the fee that you actually are paying is going to that solver, not necessarily like the Across protocol. So we want like solvers to be able to be incentivized and profitable, so that they're incentivized to go and fulfill these user intents on all these different chains, and that kind of like makes the protocol work really well.
Well, to follow up, when we talk about roll ups, right? And scroll is like a ZK roll. When we talk about optimistic versus ZK rollups, one of the pieces that is often touted is like finality, right? So to actually withdraw your funds on ETH, I guess I feel like I heard that optimistic, like maybe Arbitrum recently shortened it. I'm not sure, but previously challenge period was like 7 days, or currently is 7 days. Scroll is a few hours. How does that reflect in bridging, right? Because bridging feels instantaneous. So
Yeah, it's a great question. So Across, the way it works is you have, so the third party solvers that I was talking about, like they take on that finality risk. So if you're doing like if you're bridging maybe from like Polygon, which has slightly more reorgs than like an Optimism, it might actually take a little bit longer because these solvers are waiting for a certain number of confirmations, but they're taking on all that risk on behalf of the user. So they're essentially fronting the user their funds, and then they're waiting to be repaid. And how that works is we have UMA's optimistic oracle, which verifies all the transactions every hour, and then essentially issues like these repayments to all their solvers. So the solver is taking on the finality risk, they're fronting the user the money, and then they're waiting to be repaid. So from a user perspective, it's great because you're receiving funds immediately, and then the solver is like the one that's like actually waiting to be repaid, and that works, yeah, through optimistic oracle.
Okay, cool. So is there like basically a separate liquidity pool that you guys are uh doing the payments out of?
Yeah, so there's like two pieces. Like the relayer or the solver is fronting the user their own funds, and then they're being repaid. But they're being, so we do have like on mainnet we have LPs that can like deposit ETH or USDC, and those values can be used for repayments. But like, and the cool part is like the solvers can actually choose which chain that they want to be repaid on. So uh, across the protocol kind of helps with rebalancing. But yeah, like most of it is actually like those solvers fronting their own money and then being repaid. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, to that, I mean, this is all leading questions. Forcing is like I think what the most vulnerable places for hacks, right? I think at least I gave a talk on this in 2022. Oh my god, how old am I right now? Well, like the bridges are one of the biggest vulnerabilities, right? Because there's so much money flowing in and out. How does Across kind of handle security?
Yeah. So we do. I mean, like we've been around for over 3 years. We're battle tested. I think a lot of like the trade offs with us versus like a mint and burn style bridge is we only ever deal with the canonical assets. So like the solvers are always holding ETH, USDC. They're not holding like a mint and burn like a style token. So like I think that drastically decreases a lot of the risks with Across. And like we're not a mint and burn style bridge. It presents like other challenges, like we have to like always make sure that there's enough solver capital on different chains as we expand chains. But I think it's like a better problem than like bringing on all the security risks that come with like mint and burn style bridges, and like how devastating it can actually be if there's a bug and you know just the token is just minted into eternity. Like, yeah, there's different ways of thinking about it, but like our design is definitely like deal with the canonical assets, and yeah, and don't min burn.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Sometimes I'm like, wow, we are in an age of, I don't know, crypto being, I think, a lot more secure and at the front of people's minds than when it first started. I'm getting into this tangent where it's just like, my boyfriend's always like, Emily, why didn't you like create a hack and just run with a bunch of money early on? But I was like, no, I'm a good person. And also, like, now I think there's a lot, people have been thinking about it, it makes it a lot more difficult. I don't know why I made that aside. But I do want to talk a little bit about, bridging and chains, right? So Across integrated with Scroll.
Yep.
And I'm curious if you have any insight into like how bridges make their decisions around who they integrate with, um, or like what that process looks like.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for us, I think we have like this cross chain actions, which I'll show kind of later in the demo, but like we're really focused on protocols or chains that have protocols that are like consumer facing dapps or focus on the user experience. So like a lot of like we're interested in like gaming and obviously DeFi as well, but like we're amazing at like really fast transactions that use like canonical like USDC and WETH. So like when there's use cases like that on these chains, like we absolutely take that into account and deploy to those chains quicker than others that don't have like those kind of use cases. And then also there's just like compatibility stuff. Like there's some chains like if you have a trustless bridge with Ethereum, like that makes integrating so much easier. So like non-EVM chains are a little bit harder. They require some contract work and audits. So like there's some other stuff in there, but like I'd say ease of deployment, and then obviously if there's like activity on these chains that like make a lot of sense for Across to kind of help with and talk to these dapps and get integrated at the dapp level. I think that those are the two things.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of want to ask one last just general question before we get to the meat and bones of
Yeah.
a coding on scroll live stream workshop. Um, just kind of set the stage. What are some fun like dApps or projects that a user or a developer might be using? And they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know Across was in the background. So cool. I've been using those all the time.
Yeah, so that we've like really in the last month or two, like we've seen a lot of yeah, really great integrations. I think one is that just recently came out that I think has an amazing UX is Yield Nest. So if you go to their dapp, and I can, when I share my screen later, I can show it, but like you can basically, they allow you to select balances on any chain, including scroll, and you can basically use like your scroll ETH to do a deposit on mainnet. And it's what's really cool about it is like you don't even really know like the user experience for scroll or mainnet where the actual contract interaction is happening looks the same. So I think it's a really great user experience, and I think that there's a few others like umami.finance. They also created a great UX. We have a lot of other integrations I think that are interesting, like consumer facing, that want more like subtle user experience. So instead of like showing all the chains, like it's just like kind of that error case. If you don't, so if you're on Blast and you go to do an action in a game and you don't have enough ETH, but the dapp will recognize you have a ton of ETH on scroll, they'll allow you just to do that action with that ETH on scroll and not force you to leave the dapp or to go to a bridge or something like that. So I think those are like the user experiences that I'm really excited about.
Ah, fantastic. Okay, cool. So now we know all of this stuff about Across. Like, how do we actually build with it? And I want to start with the title of this video. So actually, sorry, we have one more kind of talky thing to do before we dive into code. Is we're talking about chain abstraction and intents. So if you could briefly describe or give a definition of what is chain abstraction, and then what is intents, and then afterwards we'll go build them together.
Yeah, so like intense, I think is the one that kind of gets lost a little bit. Like, um, it really just is show like a user is saying that they want to do something on a chain, a different chain. So they can say, I want to do, maybe I just want like the same asset from scroll to blast, or from blast to scroll, and they that's all they want. So like the intent can be very explicit, like they just really want that ETH on a different chain. But then you can also do more complex and fun stuff where the user is saying that they want to deposit into an Aave pool, or they want to mint this NFT, and then they're able to include that in that deposit, and a relayer is able to see that and say, okay, they have one ETH and they want to use that ETH to mint an NFT on this other chain, and they can go and do that on behalf of the user, and then they get repaid for it. So I think it's like a really seamless way to like do all these cross-chain actions and live in this multi-chain world. So like intents can be really a really good user experience for the user. And then chain abstraction, I think, is just like taking away kind of all the complexity of the users needing to, know it, like where all their balances are, where all their ETH is. I think like a lot of it's just taken care of at the dapp level. I think that there's a lot of things we can do as front end engineers and UX designers to like make this a better user experience. And I think again, like a few years ago, we just didn't have like the ability to transfer value between chains in under 10 seconds for pennies, but now we do. So I think a lot of it now is on the actual front end engineers and UX designers to provide this seamless experience where users aren't always having to make all these decisions, where no what contracts the dapp is on, and have to worry about like managing all their funds, and a lot of that's just taken care of for them.
Awesome. Well, I want to dive into the code. I know we do have a question in chat that's a little off topic, so I'll try to answer it while being on topic. Um,
Yep.
if you guys didn't know, so this is a level up workshop, which means we also had level up grants due somewhat was it August 25th, I think? And we said we were going to get back by August 31st. But hurrah, I guess we had too many applications. So everybody be patient. And while you're being patient, consider building with a cross. so um, in terms of what that looks like, I don't know if Alex, I know you have like a demo of some sort, which post stream, keep an eye out on our Twitter, Level Up Web3, and our website, levelup.xyz, will actually post the code for everyone to tinker around with. But Alex, I'll let you take it away if you want to start sharing your screen and give
Yeah.
a little taste of what it looks like to make seamless UX.
Yeah. So here I'll share. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So this is the repo that we'll share, and I think I intentionally like created this so that like the actual actions that you're doing. This is the Russell link, but like the actual action that you're doing behind the scenes is you are depositing into Scroll's Aave pool. If you click here, you can see like I've made some deposits just in testing. But I intentionally made this so that like you can take this and make a few edits and do different anything on Scroll. Like if there's another protocol that you want to interact with, you can kind of take this, make a few edits, and you can start doing NFT mints, or you can deposit into a different lending protocol. So like I really tried not to focus as too much on Aave, but also include the Aave logic so that it's a good demo and you can see like what's happening behind the scenes. And I guess real quick before I get into some of the other code, this is kind of the yield nest example I was talking about earlier, and it's a similar thing where like here's all their balances that they're recognizing. Here's Scroll, here's Ethereum, and you're able to just to select the balance and then easily do a bridge plus deposit. So I think that might be helpful, just kind of seeing that user experience. But yeah, let's like kind of get into the actual just repo. I think there's a lot of files in here. A lot of it is just like pretty standard logic. Includes some hooks to get like the user balance, the allowance, and this is where you get all the Aave account. Yeah, just calling get user account data on that account or on that Aave contract to essentially get how much collateral is deposited and stuff. But like the real meat is like in this deposit component. And
Alex, can I stop you really quick?
yeah, of course.
For my grandma eyes, can you please zoom in a bit on your VS Code?
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, let me I forget the command just to like
I think Command Plus maybe if you're on Mac might work. Um,
here. I'll kind of hide this, hide the terminal. Is that
yes, it's perfect.
so we'll go we'll go function by function. Um, so here's like this use effect with this fetch quote function is I would say like this is really where you can start focusing on the actual across logic um, and making those changes to whatever contract interactions you want completed. So how it works is you're basically constructing a bridge contract, a bridge interaction with the across smart contract on whatever chain that you want to deposit as like the origin chain. So if you want to go in this example, we're going from Arbitrum to Scroll. So what we need to do is include a message in that contract interaction that explicitly states like what we want completed on Scroll once that bridge transaction happens. So in this example, we are generating a message that is doing an approval, and we're depositing funds into the Aave contract. So we're coming out with an SDK like this week, but I still think that this kind of walking through this function, I think, is a good way to understand what's actually happening under the hood. So you're first defining this, or you're defining the interface with ABI for the ERC20 and the Aave pool contract that you're depositing into. And then you're encoding the approval and the deposit or the supply call into, you're just encoding these. So like with the approval, it's very standard. You're just approving the Aave contract with the amount you're depositing. And then with the deposit, this is where kind of like it gets interesting. So you got to think like you have on Scroll, you have these third-party solvers that are actually executing these transactions on behalf of the user. So when you look at this deposit or the supply Aave call, you're providing the output token, the deposit amount, and then the user address. So this is the user address that is making the call, that's doing the actual bridge transaction. So even though you have a third-party solver that's like actually executing this transaction, they're doing it on behalf of this user. So this is a really important piece. Like you don't want to like add the any other address except who you want to actually be given credit for that deposit. You don't want the relayer or the solver or like any other contract to be able to like get this deposit amount. You want it to be for the user. And then the last field is just the referral code, which I left at 0. And then this last piece, this is just encoding the call that's going to be done on the destination chain. Really, the only pieces that you need to be concerned with, this will always be the same, this ABI. So this is just an array of the transactions that you're making on the destination chain. So this is the approve, and this is the deposit. So you're basically, this is like the target, this is the contract you're interacting with, this is the call data. So we're approving the USDC with this approval call data, with the deposit, with the Aave contract address and the amount, and then we're actually doing the deposit here. And I know this is a lot. Like, what's cool is like probably this week or next week, all you'll have to define is like basically the contract address, the method name, and then the arguments. But this is actually like showing the whole process of encoding this message that's then added on the deposit on the origin chain. So I guess I'll stop there. And are there any questions like just around creating this message? The whole purpose of it is to really you're encoding transaction data that you want executed on the destination chain, and then once you make this deposit on Arbitrum, a relayer is going to decode this message on Scroll and then execute these transactions. So they're going to execute the approval, and they're going to do the deposit on behalf of the user on Scroll. So that's really like the piece that this is focusing on, and it's such an important piece because this allows all the flexibility of doing like anything that you want on scroll from any other chain. So it's a really cool piece that Across enables, and it's just so powerful for for dapp developers.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's relatively straightforward. I guess you said SDK coming out. Is that alpha?
It's just it's gonna make the integration process a little bit easier. You won't like so you can imagine like you'll just have to maybe include this ABI and then maybe this deposit, like these arguments, like an array of these arguments, and you won't have to like do as much of this encoding process. But it's kind of cool to see just like what's actually how all this is being encoded, and we can look at once we do a deposit, I can show you kind of like what the message looks like. But yeah, it's really important because like so Across has functioned for over 3 years. Like it's battle tested, and I think sometimes when we talk to teams about these cross chain actions piece of it, like they think we're creating this new product, and it's like, oh, you're gonna have to like scale this out like again, like but really we're able to use the same solvers, we're able to use the same bridge contracts. Like nothing about like how Across functions today is different. The only thing that's different is for a long time we just left this message field empty, but now we're really helping teams to generate this message for transactions that they want executed on the destination chain and making it easier. But everything else is like the same audited, battle tested contracts, and you're using the same 30 plus solvers that exist today.
Awesome. No, that's really great. I'm glad the demo is short. That makes it. I feel like it makes it obvious that it's not hard.
I think that this is like really, so this is the part that I think is the powerful part for like creating transactions. The rest is it's just so you're okay. So like maybe I can walk through. So you still the integration basically consists of generating this message, and then you take all these parameters. So you take like the input token, which is going to be whatever. Like so here it's like Aave USDC, the origin chain ID, which is going to be Aave. And you're just like basically like constructing this standard bridge transaction, and you're calling Across's API. And all of this is just so that you can get a quote on the fees. So like, so if I type in, I want to do a deposit for 5 USDC on Arbitrum to scroll. All of this logic to get this quote is just to show like this fee, and it tells you the estimated time. So like, this is pretty standard stuff. Like if you're just doing a bridge transaction, and it's just basically calling the Across API with all these query parameters that tell you, you're basically just saying, this is where my funds are, this is where I want to go, and this is what I want to do. And then the Across API says, all right, that's perfect. We can do that for 11 cents. And this is including that deposit. So if you were just doing like a bridge transaction, I would say this estimated fee would probably be maybe 1 or 2 cents. But since you're doing an approval along with a deposit, it is a little bit more expensive, because you're actually paying for the gas, for those execution costs of doing all those transactions. So that is something to think of as you're building out an integration. There are like whatever you're including in the message for it to be executed on the destination chain, those transactions are also going to be included in the fee for the gas. But yeah, maybe I'll just show like, I could just do a quick deposit. So here I have 23 USDC right now in Aave. And right now I want to do I'm going to just deposit 5 more USDC from Arbitrum. And this is going to Scroll's Aave pool. So let's first do the approval. That looks pretty good. Let's see. Okay. So now we've approved 5 USDC. So now we can do the deposit. And here we can look at, like what's actually happening. So here's the deposit. And then I just want to stress like the actual, like all of these arguments, this is just a standard across bridge. These are included in every single cross bridge transaction. And then, oh, it's not letting me scroll. Okay. And here's the message. And this message is what we constructed that includes the approval, and it includes all the deposit logic. So now if we go to position, I think it was 23 before. And so now it's 28. And we can look at the status of this too by, I didn't have the time to add this, so I'll do it manually, but here's the deposit ID, and this is just the identifier for the deposit, and it allows you to call the across API. Oh, it's still showing as pending. This is something that some teams actually have used like more of like a script, because yeah, we in our API we actually wait. We're very conservative on like how these when these transactions are actually filled and they're finalized, and we wait a certain number of confirmations. But as you can see, like the funds have already been received. I think they're probably received in like 2 or 3 seconds on Scroll. That deposit was actually made. But yeah, I mean, at a high level, that's kind of really all you're doing. Like you're able just to recognize these balances for users on all these different chains, and then abstract away like all the complexity of having to go to a bridge tab or a bridge widget and easily be able to do transactions on Scroll from really any different chain. And I think it's really powerful because you don't even have to do any contract work. It is all front end. I did this whole demo in less than a day. So like, and I'm not a front end engineer. So like for a team that has front end engineers that can really look at this, it's such an easy integration, and it provides so much value because now, especially if I know Scroll has a lot of TVL, but like for some of the other chains that are bootstrapping, like you're able just to access all this liquidity on mainnet and all these different chains like Base. And yeah, it's a really powerful tool.
So question, can you, I guess, play around with a cross on testnet, or is it only available on mainnet?
Yeah, it is on testnet. We have like internally we run relayers because it's hard to incentivize people on testnet, but we run relayers on like several chains: Sepolia, Base Sepolia, Blast Sepolia, Arbitrum Sepolia, and as long as we have 5 or 6 supported assets that allow you to go through the whole suite of testing. And I think like having those testnet relayers is a good touch because as like a dapp builder, you can go through the whole flow on testnet and not have to like manually do the actual fills and stuff. That's brutal. So we have made the testnet user experience good, and we would love feedback. So if there are builders out there, we would love to hear your feedback on building on testnet.
Okay, perfect. That sounds really good. Though I will say I've talked to multiple dapp builders where I'm like, "Oh, yeah, blah, 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 testnet," and they're like, "Oh, no, we only build on mainnet." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, the, like, L2s are cheap enough at this point that it's fine." And I was like, "Well, I'm still a poor college student in my head." I was like, "Nope, I can't spend 11 cents. This is impossible for me."
Yeah, I think that we've seen the same thing. But I think a lot of it is because there's like two buckets. There's teams that just want like the front end integration like this, and maybe they're live on mainnet. So like because it's just front end work, they're okay with testing like on mainnet live, and especially if you're on some of these like if you're doing like these some of these L2s cheap fees are really cheap. So I think that's one bucket. There's others that are integrating like across in the contract layer, and they're those are like I think when we really see teams wanting to if they're doing like a cross deposit inside a contract function, like that's where we see like a lot of testnet usage. So kind of depends on like where the developers are, and if they're coming from just a front end integration or if they're actually doing this in the contracts.
Okay. I should have asked this at the beginning, but do you have like a docs link, a website link? How do people actually start using?
Yes. I'm biased because I work, I'm part of the Across team, but I think our docs are incredible at like kind of walking through this whole flow and integration. We actually even do like a UI guide. So if teams are looking for UI inspiration, they can also look at this. But I would, if I was an engineer looking to integrate, I would focus on this embedded cross-chain action section, and I can send this to you. But it goes through pretty much everything we just went through today, and includes some examples and stuff. So we've had teams like where we really kind of handhold them through the process, and we've also had teams where we send them the docs, and then a few days later they show us what they created. So it is like teams have integrated the full flow through just like the docs. So I'm happy to share those, and hopefully they're a good resource for teams.
Yes, cool. I think there is a private chat function on our live stream page if you can just like copy paste the link and I can blast it across channels.
Yes, I'll do that right now. Oh yeah, I see the private chat. There we go.
Okay. Cool. And then let's see it. Docs.across.2. Oh, that's cute. Across two. I don't know if that was intentional, but
It's naming and domains. They're always big conversations with a lot of. They're always big. They're like very big decisions.
yeah, that's true. Fun fact, Level Up was originally levelupweb3.xyz for those of you who've been here from the beginning, but we recently changed it to just levelup.xyz, dropped the web3. So yeah, there was some internal contention. They were like, "Oh, we want to be more generic," and I was like, "Okay, well, sure."
Yeah, I always worry about like the people that are watching, like and trying to buy domains that businesses or company projects might move to. They try to like. It's good that no one bought that domain before thinking that you might pivot to it.
Yeah. So we're lucky ducks. Anyways, I think that's probably the most important piece. If you want to get more information, put I guess your GitHub repo and everything online. And also, yeah, I mean, keep an eye out for the SDK. Uh, exciting news. Yeah, And if there's any questions, I mean, speak now or forever hold them until later. Yeah, and I'll
Yeah,
give it 10 seconds for lag, but if you have anything wrapping closing thoughts, Alex, this is your time to shine.
yeah. I just if there's any teams out there that are considering this or want a better cross chain experience, like absolutely reach out to our team. We'll do working sessions. We like I think that's one thing that we found really effective with teams. Like we'll just go to the code and kind of we can point to like this is where the logic would go, and we've done some integrations like in an hour or two. So this isn't like uh, you know we're not asking you to like completely refactor your code or change all your contracts. This can be a relatively isolated logic that you can include in your front end that offers just such a better user experience for cross chain. And I think like if you're on the fence, at least reach out to us. Let's have a call, and I think we can convince you.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So, for me, lunch happens in about an hour and a half. So, on y'all's lunch break, feel free to just call up across,
Yeah,
integrate, having your sandwich, and then, yeah. Okay. Cool. So again, docs.across.2. I'll count down from 10 to account for lag, and then we'll sign off. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, thank you so much again, Alex. I'm going to hit the end stream.